with Alpha Capital. We're going to be going over the online enrollment presentation of the 401k plan and going through the enrollment process. Today, we're actually going to follow up with an email to Ben with these attached documents. So that'll be coming out to all the eligible participants in an email shortly after this call is done. We'll also be making this video, this webinar, available via YouTube video link. So anyone who's missed this can also view this via YouTube video link. The first document that we'll be reviewing is the online enrollment packet. I personally feel this is probably the most important document. So if you forget everything today, just go to this online enrollment packet and access these following pages. It does start on the second page, right kind of towards the middle. It looks like a big iPad, and in the middle it'll say, "Let's get started. To enroll online, please go to this following website." And that following website is the provider's website. You'll be able to use that website link for all future logins as well. I've got it pulled up on my screen to create some familiarity for everyone to see that. The first initial step to enroll online is going to this website, and you'll click in that top left corner where it says online enrollment. You'll click that. It'll flip the screen and then ask you to type in a plan password. The plan password is unique to the business. It's in the middle of this page here. It's BAMOPP. It is in all capital letters, and make sure there's no spaces before or after that. So BAMOPP in all capital letters will get you into that appropriate plan. So make sure you are doing that step. On this document, starting on pages 8, there's actually a screenshot that goes through exact step-by-step process with what I just showed you. Clicking online enrollment, typing in plan password, and then entering social security number, and then all of those subsequent workflows on those onboarding process. So please go and reference pages 8 through, I believe it's page 12, if you have any questions or any assistance that you need going through that online enrollment. There's going to be a section in here about halfway through when you're completing the online enrollment. It's about 50% way through. Before you click the investments, it's going to ask you for the source of money to select. Make sure you are selecting all sources of money. So that first option, make sure you click that before hitting next. If you do get hung up on that spot, definitely reference back pages 8 through 12 as this onboarding process goes on. For the purposes of the call and the webinar, we do like to actually pull up the paper version of the enrollment process to give you more of a heads up around the types of 4 decisions that you'll be faced as you're completing either the paper version or the online electronic version. So the paper version will actually serve as 2 roles. One for those who want to fill out the paper copy, but also for those who don't want to participate in the plan as a waiver. Ben, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, I just heard something. So with the paper version of the waiver, for those who do not want to participate in the plan at this time, you will need to complete this top section of this enrollment application and then select this first option where it says, "I elect not to contribute in the retirement plan at this time." You'll then sign that form and return it to Ben. He'll keep that for his records. If you do want to participate in the plan, you've got those 2 scenarios. You can either complete the paper version or the electronic online version. We highly recommend everyone complete the electronic version if you are going to participate, or the online. It's a lot faster, it's more secure, and it's safer for everybody. So do complete that if you can. For those who are completing the enrollment process, all this first information is all self-explanatory. The one piece that may not be at your fingertips is this date of hire date. So make sure you get with Ben, confirm that date of hire date. You will need that as you're completing the online enrollment or the enrollment application. It is required. With the enrollment election, we'll spend a little bit of time on. This kind of starts the decision. The first question that I already kind of touched on is am I in or am I out? Are you going to participate or not? Hopefully the answer is yes to everybody. If you do want to participate in the plan, that gets us to the second decision, which is a traditional contribution or pre-tax or an after-tax Roth contribution. So depending on if you want to do Roth or pre-tax, one of those you can go and pick from. You can adjust that at any time if you would like. So nothing is set in stone today. You can always adjust whatever you decide on today or over the week or the next couple days. For that, you have a decision which is Roth or pre-tax. The difference between the two is really in the name, is when the money is taxed. The pre-tax contribution or traditional contribution is probably what most folks are familiar with. You would be putting in money today that you haven't paid taxes on yet. You would then contribute into the retirement plan. And then when you withdraw the money in retirement, that's when you will pay your taxes. So in retirement, whatever your effective tax rate is, that would be your effective tax rate when you withdraw that money. With a Roth, it happens the opposite. You're going to put in money that you've already paid taxes on. And then when you withdraw the money in retirement, you've already paid those taxes, so it's all yours. So depending on what you foresee your tax bracket to be right now, or what tax rates are to be in the future, or for your case in retirement, one may say it might make sense for one or the other. We tend to see people that are in a lower tax bracket right now, or younger, or in their earlier working careers, will tend to do a Roth contribution. The pre-tax contribution or a traditional contribution are for those who are looking to reduce their taxable income and decrease their taxable income expense in this present year. So depending on your circumstance, one may be better than the other. If you have any individual questions about those scenarios, we can definitely answer one-on-one scenarios. There is not a perfect answer of what may make sense because we do not know what the future rates are going to be. We can't predict what's going to be in 20 years from now, 10 years from now, or even 40 years from now. So it is somewhat of a best guess given your circumstances. So let us know if there's any questions. Are there any questions at this time about traditional versus Roth at all?
No.
Okay. So this is going to go and bring us to our third point, which is the how much question. I personally feel it's the most important one. The how much is very important for you to go and start out with now, but you can always adjust it at any time. So it's not set in stone, and you can adjust that. The national average for all participants, all age groups and all industries, are saving around 8% of their income. So an 8% from their paycheck they're putting into their 401k plan. A lot of studies and research has shown is that 10% is really the magic number or the goal that folks should be at. So if you were to go home and Google how much should I be saving for retirement, 10% or more would be what you would most likely find in a lot of the research or the articles that you'd be reading. So be mindful of that. So 8 and 10 would be a good range to be at, but we know that that's not in the cards for many of you. What also is important is the company benefit of the safe harbor match. The plan is set up with a safe harbor match, and the way that works is for those who do participate in the plan, you're eligible for the safe harbor match. And I'm going to explain the match in a couple different scenarios to make sure it's clear for everybody. It's worked on a calculation of what you put in. And the calculation is 100% on the first 3% that you put in, and then 50% on the next 2 from 4 to 5. So another way to say it is if you put in 1, you'll get a company match of 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 3. If you put in 4% from the employee, the company match would be 3.5. If you put in 5%, the company match would be 4. 4% is the maximum that you can get, but you have to put in 5 to get that 4. If you put in something greater than 5, like say 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you'll still get that company match of 4. So you have to put in 5 to get that 4. So going back to that how much question, it behooves everybody to at least put in 5% of their contribution, and then working up to that goal of maybe say 8 or 10%. If you can, from a budgeting standpoint, put in around 8 to 10%. That would be a great starting point. The expectation of saving for retirement and having enough to live off of in retirement, if you're only saving 5% of your income, is most likely not going to get you to your goals. So be mindful that we want you to increase that contribution if you can. If you are going to start out at say 5%, think about bumping up your contribution to say 6% in 1 year from now. And then the following year, go up to 7. And the following year, go to 8. And that 1% increase from year to year is a great way to chip away at getting to a bigger number without really affecting your net take-home pay all that much. So I wanted to pause there. Are there any questions about the how much, traditional versus Roth, or the company match at all?
Not from me.
Okay.
Hey, let me ask one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since I will be matching that, is that through my payroll, or how does that usually work?
It will. There'll be a format with your payroll that they'll automatically key in that contribution amount for the company match, and we'll work with you over the next week or so of making sure that's in there. So one thing that's important is we'll want to hang tight because we need to know how much the employee wants to save first. So that's going to be inputted in payroll, and then based off of that company match, they'll then tabulate what the employee is going to get from the company. So if everybody put in 5%, it's pretty easy. Everybody would get a 4% company match, and there would be 2 items that they would tabulate. It's very straightforward. All of the 401k payrolls or all the company matches and payroll are all very simple. And normally we'll just make a phone call with you, or you can reach out to them and say, hey, I need to make sure I have the safe harbor match set up in my 401k payroll, and everything will be good. It's normally just a checkbox for them behind the scenes.
Okay.
So going down to the 4th question is the investments. This is often kind of that brick wall for many folks is, yes, I can decipher doing traditional versus Roth or the how much, but I don't know where to put my investments. So what this is on your screen now is all of the investment choices that are available to each of you to pick and choose from for your investments. All of these are all institutional grade mutual funds. What that means to you is they're all low cost investment options for you to pick from. All of these are also all top quartile performers. So that means they're the best performing funds in their respective asset classes. So you've got great performing funds and low cost options. Part of Mark and I's role and responsibility as advisors on the 401k plan is to make sure this investment menu is great today, but also great every single quarter. We constantly are reviewing these investment choices. If there is a fund that does fall out of favor for consecutive quarters, we'll automatically pull it out and replace it with a like-kind fund. If you have the money that are inside of that fund, they'll automatically get mapped out and put over to that new fund as that transition happens. There's nothing that you need to do. Notices will get sent out to everybody automatically with a heads up around that time frame. So there's nothing that either the participant or the company will have to do in that scenario. But telling you you've got great investment choices and they're constantly getting improved and you got low cost options doesn't help. So what we do from an ongoing education and advice standpoint, we will provide you a quarterly investment asset allocation guide. And what this is to help with that final decision of investments today, but also into the future as ongoing advice. So the sheet here is broken out into 2 sections. The larger rectangle at the top is going to be more of a hands-on approach. And then the bottom on that bottom left corner is going to be more of a hands-off approach. And I'll talk about both here. So the hands-on approach, all of the investment choices are listed here on that left-hand column. The asset class that they represent is in that second column. The third column is the ticker symbols. And then the next couple columns are all model portfolios that we've built based off of a diversified lineup given that risk tolerance. From an education standpoint, we tend to see people that are in the aggressive column would be in their 20s and 30s. They would get over into that moderate aggressive column or that second to right one in your 40s and 50s. And then you would near your 60s, you would get into that moderate column or that 50-50 blend. So depending on your age and time frame left in retirement, those 3 columns towards the right, depending on your age, would be most likely more appropriate for you. For those individuals who are going to be using that hands-on model, is the ask of you is we've already done the math and the homework of what you can fill in on your sheet or online of what percentage or what fund we recommend you to go into. The ask is that as we come out with these quarterly updates is that you go and compare the newest sheet to your investments online. As an example, we may change this 6% up to 8% or 22 down to 18. And we'd want you to make that adjustment in your 401k investment menu as well. So we've done the math and the homework, but you have the keys to the car and you're driving. So we need you to make those adjustments if you are following that guide. There are no costs of changing or making any adjustments to any of these investments. You could change your investments every single day if you wanted to with no additional costs. The bottom left corner is going to be more of the hands-off or autopilot mentality. And those are going to be the target date funds. And the target date funds work in the way that you would find out what year it will be when you reach age 65, and that's going to put you into one of these target date ranges. And based off of that target date range, that's going to be your most appropriate target date fund. So you would go 100% into that one fund as your investment selection. And these target date funds work very similar to the ones that are just up above in those columns. The blue ones that I've highlighted on the bottom 4 are going to be more aggressive in nature. They're going to be for the younger individuals who has a lot longer left until retirement. The next 4 are going to be for those who are kind of in the middle of their workforce. They're nearing, retirement, but still 10 to 15 years out, in some cases even more than that. And those are going to be more in that moderate aggressive column, or that second column from the right. And then the ones that are nearing retirement or closer to the present year are going to be closer to a 50-50 portfolio, or that moderate column. So they start out at, say, 90% in equities, and then every 5 years they de-risk, automatically becoming a little bit more conservative over time, and then ultimately becoming a 50-50 portfolio at retirement date. So it's more of a set it and forget it mentality. So we've got one scenario is hands-on, one scenario is hands-off. The third is you're free to do whatever else you would like. You have the keys to the car. You have full discretion in what your investments are. We just wanted to help provide a detailed roadmap of what we feel would be most appropriate for you to pick and choose from. Our contact information is also in the body of the email that you'll get, and also on the bottom of this form. So if you would care to reach out to Mark or myself, feel free to do that at any time. This is not a one and done process. We're going to be constantly doing enrollment meetings as other employees become eligible over time, and are also coming out with quarterly education with this asset allocation guide, newsletters, and other savings tips as well too. So keep an eye out for that information to come out. Hopping back to the investment sheet, as again, you have an option of transposing those numbers from 1% into each fund. You would line the fund up with that percentage and find it and put it in, or you can choose one of those target date funds, or a combination of anything else. You do want to make sure that your investment selection totals up to 100%, because you want to make sure that your allocation is going into a correct bucket. So if you were contributing $100, you want to make sure that $100 gets spread appropriately to your selection. So make sure that it totals up to 100%. I want to pause there. Is there any questions that either of you have on the investments that we've talked about so far?
No.
Okay, so we're going to hop down to the last 2 things that we'll cover. The beneficiary designation form will be available online as you're completing that enrollment process, and you can update your beneficiaries at any time in the future. A beneficiary is important is in the event that you pass away, the monies that you've accumulated in the account or rolled into the account go to whom you wish. So as a scenario, husband and wife couple and 2 children, the spouse would be listed as primary beneficiary, and then the 2 children would be listed as contingent beneficiaries at 50% apiece. On the bottom of this form, there's what's called a spousal consent. This would only apply if you are married and you do not name your spouse as primary beneficiary. So if you're married and you're skipping your spouse from being first in line, they have to sign this form, as well as a witness notary needs to sign it. So not saying that applies to either of you, but if that does, you will have to complete the paper form, just to be FYI. If it doesn't apply, you can update all of your beneficiary information all online and constantly review that at any time. Okay. The last and final thing that we'll discuss is the plan account rollover. In the event that you've got an old IRA or an old 401k account that you would like to consolidate into the 401k plan, if you're eligible to participate, you're eligible to roll these monies into the plan. It works as normally a kind of a 2-prong approach. One, from the company that you're leaving, they'll normally have either a form or a phone call will need to be made to them to send and issue a check over to retirement plan consultants. That's the receiving part. There's a whole team at Retirement Plan Consultants, which is this form, and they can help coordinate that transition from the other company over to them and do all the heavy lifting for you. So if that does apply, There's a gal by the name of Stephanie Wolf that's been an onboarding specialist for the plan. They can help, and she can help with that transition over from the other company over to Retirement Plan Consultants. And this will also work on the outbound as well. So if you're no longer working for the company, and a year from now, 6 months from now, 10 years from now, whatever it may be, you can roll the monies that you've accumulated in your account out of the plan to your choice as well. So it kind of works going in and going out as well. And a good way to look at it is to prevent from folks kind of losing track of their money or 401k accounts or logins and stuff, is the money is essentially kind of follow you wherever you're working. So keep that in mind. It's a lot easier to keep track of one account rather than 4 or 5 accounts, depending on how many places you've worked or participated in 401k accounts. So be mindful of that. If that does apply, give us a call. We can get you connected with Retirement Plan Consultants, or Stephanie Wolf is available at Retirement Plan Consultants. They've got a 1-800 number on the bottom of this screen too, but we can provide Stephanie's information if that does apply to anybody there at the offices.
Okay.
But I wanted, again, just briefly mention. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go on. I'll say at the end.
Okay. So I just wanted to just mention, whatever you decide today, whether it's traditional versus Roth, how much, the investments, beneficiaries, nothing is set in stone. You can always adjust it at any time. You'll have 24/7 access to the website through that Retirement Plan Consultants website, and can make any adjustments. We're available one-on-one if you have any questions as well, so feel free to reach out to us. Again, this is supposed to be a fluid interaction, so feel free to reach out to us. We're not going to send you a bill for your time. Just reach out to us if you have any questions. That's what we're here for. So I wanted to open it up for any final comments or questions that you have, Ben.
Okay, as an example, let's just go over one that someone in my organization wants to contribute. Say they make $1,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And they elect to save $100 a month, right? 10%. Mm-hmm. And then that means that, tell me so they can hear how much I am going to match for that.
Yeah. So a great way to look at it, and I'm going to use that example, but kind of skew one number. So if you, as an example, let's say everybody has a $1,000 paycheck, gross pay is $1,000, and you're going to save the minimum to get that company match is 5%. So you're going to save 5% of that $1,000 paycheck, which is $50. So if you save $50 or 5% of that gross paycheck, the company match would be 4% or $40. So you're putting in $50 of your own money. The company match would be $40 or 4% for a total of $90. So $90 is going into your 401k account. And if you're doing a pre-tax contribution, like a traditional or pre-tax contribution of $50, that's going in before you pay taxes. But what also happens is your take-home pay is not going to go down by that full $50. It's probably only going to go down by about $30. So you're only taking a pay cut of $30, but $90 is going into your 401k account, 50 from you, 40 from the company. We do really encourage folks to do 5% rather than $50, because depending on your pay, that $50 may be less than 5% or it may be more than 5%. So keep in mind that we would really educate you to put in at least 5% as a 5% number, not a flat dollar amount. So does that example help, Ben, with that analogy?
It does, very much so.
Right.
The other thing is we pay twice a month. Mm-hmm. So how does that work? Is this only addressed once a month type thing?
No, it's going to come out of each pay period. So 5% of each paycheck would go in, and 4% of each paycheck would go in for the company match. So it is a per pay period basis.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And then what we'll do too is as the days roll off on getting the payroll set up, once we have eligible participants start participating or they filled out their enrollments, we'll then identify how much they want withheld, and then that's when we'll help work with you on getting those percentages keyed into payroll, as well as the company match keyed into payroll too.
Okay. Go over for everybody who's going to be viewing this, the requirements again to participate.
Yes, so everybody who is 3 months of service, 3 months of consecutive service with 250 hours as a minimum. So you have to complete 3 months of service, consecutive months of service, and complete 250 hours. Also, you have to be over 18 years older.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt one second.
Oh, you go.
Say they don't get 250 in 3 consecutive months, but they get it in the 5th month. That still counts,
yes,
right?
Correct.
Just
so what you'll then, if they have met that eligibility mark, is that they would enter in either January 1, but if you're not eligible quite yet in January 1 and you haven't completed those, that call it eligibility mark, is that you would then be able to enter the plan in April. So that is quarterly enrollments or quarterly and open enrollments, which is January 1, April 1, July 1, and October 1. So if you do miss, January 1, you can start in April 1. If you miss April 1, you can start in July. So depending on the timing of what your hire date is, how much you've worked, and your age, you can then start at that next quarter. So it's 18 years old, 3 months of service, and 250 hours.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that information will all be in the body of the email that will get off to Ben, and he'll be able to forward it out to everybody as well.
Yeah. And we hope everybody will look at it and take advantage of it, because savings early is the way to go.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate everybody's time. If there's any questions that either of you guys have, please feel free to reach out to Mark